DJ Akademiks wants to talk to me.
All right. So when you're also kind of borderline teetering on what would most people say is socialism, my guy. Like,
wait, what? Let me tell you something about myself then. Yeah. I don't give a shit. Yeah, I don't think that the capitalist organization of the economy is adequate. We don't need to have that conversation. But yes,
no, there's no way you believe in that. Hey, listen, I'm one of the biggest pocket watchers ever known to me. Like, I've already summed you up in what you make. And I sum up rappers, I sum up entertainers. Look at my guy Kai. I just did a whole little rap sheet of his thing.
Socialism is not a poverty cult. You don't have to be poor to be socialist, even though you can still advocate for those who are less fortunate than you. Russell Brand once famously said,
the majority of your luxuries just to improve the lives of other people who may not be trying or working hard.
That's not socialism. That is a bastardized American interpretation of socialism. Russell Brand once famously said, when I was poor and I advocated for socialism, they said I was jealous of the wealthy's success. Now I'm wealthy and I advocate for socialism, and they say I'm a hypocrite. Turns out they just don't want me advocating for socialism. They don't want me speaking out on behalf of the working class, and that is the truth.
A hypocrite. They're going to say you're a hypocrite because
they say it all the time. I don't give a shit.
Even if there isn't an overarching or some type of policy that could just like advocate or just gonna make this happen, you have acquired a lot of wealth. Why don't you start distributing your wealth?
I do. But socialism is not about wealth distribution, even though I do that. But socialism is not about wealth distribution. Again, like I said, that's a misunderstanding. And people also have a lot of dummies have actually canceled me over buying a house and because they're stupid. But socialism is at its very roots about making sure that you earn what you make. Okay.
Hold on. You would move 5 niggas from Skid Row in that beautiful house. I've seen it on Google. You know you would not do it. And socialism would not be proud.
Wait, what? That's not social. Wait, what the? That's of course I wouldn't do that because that has nothing to do with socialism. Why would I do that? I can't individually solve problems. If personal charity was a foolproof method of solving the underlying problems that exist in society, and anyone who gave money to charities was deemed a socialist, then Jeff Bezos would be the biggest socialist around. It's not about that at all. It's about how you make your money. Do you have capital? Do you or it's more so about earning a larger percentage of earning a larger percentage of the wages that you are creating for the company that you work for. That's what socialism is about. It's about getting the adequate pay and autonomy that you have in your life.
I would be down to give away, the majority of my resources that I've acquired by working so hard if I seen Hasan do it first. If you were like, yo, listen, man.
Okay, well, you should start then.
And I saw you with a nice, a nice tent that you were kicking it with, with like just one of those little fans with the battery. And I'm like, yo, if he's doing that, maybe I should sell my Lamborghini.
Okay, but you're missing the point because I don't want anyone to be living inside of tents. And I think that we have enough money as we collectively create enough wealth to ensure that. I have no problem paying my taxes. You earlier asked if I dodge taxes or anything. I have no problem paying my taxes. I pay 55% or something like that. I live in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? I pay the highest percentage.
You have some tax breaks though. You're working inside your house.
No,
I know you.
So no, not at all. No, but it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. What I'm trying to say is that I don't do that. But what I'm trying to say is I would rather, I have no issue paying higher percentage of taxes even now. But there are also a lot of untaxed income out there that billionaires and millionaires take advantage of. Okay. Like, for example, there's a concept called buy, borrow, die. These guys, instead of paying taxes, they'll just assume debt, right? They'll go to a bank and they'll say, I have $7 billion in assets. Give me $100 million right now. That's how Elon Musk, for example, just bought Twitter. He took $40 billion from a bunch of different banks. So he took that as a loan. Now all he needs to do is pay off the incredibly tiny interest rate on that loan on this wonderful financial package that they afford him that they would never afford to the random Joe Schmo when you try to get a loan. So that's how they pay. That's what they do rather than pay taxes, because now that's debt. Okay, but now he has debt that he can use against all the taxes that he has to pay. Well, it's called buy, borrow, die.
No, and I believe you on that. So that's where I would ask you, it feels like you're just like most Americans, and not necessarily believing in what people would say is socialism. You just believe that the richest people of this country should actually not be allowed to weasel and squeeze themselves out of not paying what's
if Jeff Bezos paid my tax percentage, we would have like 90% of the problems would be diminished. Okay, but no one does that. No one even in my financial predicament even does that, except for like, I guess, Twitch streamers that I do know that don't give a shit and don't try to like shelter their assets or anything. But that's not even socialism. Socialism is about the means of production. Like when you make content on your own, right? You're your own boss, right? Have you ever worked a job under someone else though before you started doing this?
Of course. Well, I mean, so my last job was at Verizon Wireless in Branchburg.
Perfect. So you worked at Verizon, right? And you had no control over your own schedule. You had no control over your own life. You had no control over what you wear. They made you wear those ugly ass red polo tees, right?
It was, so I worked at a corporate company, so it was Blackwood with the red Verizon letter.
Okay, but regardless, like you had no meaningful control over your own life. Yes, socialism is about ensuring that you at least have somewhat of a say, democratizing the workplace, and have somewhat of a say and more autonomy over the profits that you're generating for the company. That's what socialism is about. It has nothing to do with like, I don't know, just being poor and living in a tent with a fan or anything like that.
Yeah, it's so. And I don't think anyone's a bad human in terms of saying that, oh no, people deserve to like be homeless, right? So like me intuitively believes that everyone should have some type of, especially when you're in the United States, which we've seen the extremes of wealth that we're like, well, shoot, maybe he could afford less than owning an island. Everybody in Skid Row could just have a place to like lay their head other than outside. I don't think no one thinks that. I then ask you though, in terms of meritocracy, do you believe that a lot of what you have been afforded in life, because I do, I believe that I've made sacrifices, I've worked harder, I've done the necessary things to try to get ahead, and I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the reasons I can't get down with that. Is like, Robbie, like if I didn't really have to do to at least have a menial, decent life, and everybody else we're gonna have a downgrade, and nobody else was gonna have like all these great things, I'm like, I'm not gonna do shit.
No, I don't think meritocracy is real. I'll just tell you right now, I'm a profoundly successful individual, and I don't think meritocracy is real. I think it's a lie that they tell people, because we have no way of understanding whether a kid that was born in Oblak or a kid born in like Mongolia has the capacity to achieve the same level of success that we did, because they were born in a different spawn point. So I think that level of probability plays a gigantic role in people's developments, and things have gone right in your life, right? I'm not diminishing your hard work. I'm sure you work very hard. I work very hard. I stream for 10 hours a day. I work a lot harder than some of my peers. Okay. But yeah, I've made sacrifices. I've worked very hard, but ultimately
there's people who aren't as eloquent, who aren't as rational, and you could be like, oh no, this is a product of something else. But you are special in a sense because, okay, let's not think about the people who don't even have the opportunity to do what you're doing.
Yeah, but they could.
How many streamers get online every day and they're trying to break down certain that might be congruent to what you're doing, but they don't have the same result? You're doing something better than them, brother.
I understand that. I understand that. However, there should still be a base level of security afforded to every single person so they can, if they wish to do so, maximize on their potential. And right now, with the current system that we exist under, we do not do that. A lot of people's potential is robbed because of the zip code that they're born into. And I think that needs to change. And as a matter of fact, societies that do have better social safety nets have higher upward social mobility. That's why you look at European countries, European nations, and you see far better success in terms of upward social mobility in countries like that, because they have social safety nets that are more adequate. If you are not fearful that your health, your well-being is tied to your employment like you do here in the United States of America, you can make lateral moves. You can go and switch a job without fear that, like, listen, if I switch a job and that job doesn't offer me health care, I'm if I get sick. You know what I mean? That's a huge L that Americans take on a daily basis. Okay. Same with college. Plenty of people in plenty of other countries can get that education. Some countries will literally pay you to go to college. In America, you got to go to Afghanistan and get your blown off so you can get that paid for, because education is the only viable method of upward social mobility. It's ridiculous.
Wait, you went to Rutgers as well. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Rutgers. I went to University of Miami, and then I went to Rutgers. And I was able to do that because What?
What were you studying?
Political science.
Political science.
Yeah.
This is where like I also fall off that bandwagon, and I think about people like you, and definitely people right. So I went and I have a biomathematics degree. You have a political science. There's people who go to college who literally skate by. And yes, they may accrue some debt, but they're there for their experience. And a lot of times, back in the day, Sally Mae or maybe Navy Inter or whatever the hell, or maybe some like,
GI Bill?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be paid for. I'm talking about people rack up charges like that their either parents sign off for, or they look at like, I'll pay back later in life. And then they'll go to college and not even take anything challenging. I'm actually a double major. So it's biomathematics.
Right, me too, in communication as well, but that's bullshit degree on top of political science, which is also bullshit.
Sociology is my second degree. Brother, so you're telling me, I used to go to sociology drunk, never really paid attention, never studied for shit. I had a 3.8. I got like 1 C and 1 B. Anyway, here's the thing. You want me to believe that meritocracy doesn't exist when I knew how hard I had to work for the degree, even though I didn't use it. Granted, I didn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by a math degree. And I'm just extrapolating to other people. In life, you're going to get what you deserve, what you work for. And if we push a message
that's not true. I'll tell you the counter to that. You think the parent of 3 children in Oklahoma that's working for $30,000 a year as a teacher is not working hard? She has to come back from school and then go do Uber deliveries in order to make ends meet. That person is working just as hard as you, if not way harder. But we have no way of rewarding those people, and we don't see those people. There are plenty of people that are infinitely hardworking, immensely hardworking, that do not get the adequate compensation for their labor. That doesn't mean that they're not working hard or working smart. They're doing all of that. The idea that you're going to succeed, I think, is still absolutely reliant on factors that are completely outside of our control. And I say that as someone who is immensely successful. I said it as someone who is I recognize my own success, and I also recognize a privilege that allowed me to get to this level. And I want to make sure that other people can also. They're not going to be as successful as me, but if they want to, they should be able to have the opportunities.
Let me just stop you right there. Okay, for your audience and mine, let me give you my story. I was born in Spanish Town, Jamaica. There's videos until I was 10, 11 years old running around with barefoot in a place called Clarendon, Jamaica. I lived in a place called Grantham, right? It's the most unlikely story that I'm here. My mom came up here after breaking up with my father, and she worked 3 jobs. Never had a car. She walked from place to place, took buses. She never had nothing. What she instilled in us, and this is why, like, I always come to America and listen to people about this shit, be like, y'all don't even know y'all don't really know this shit as bad. When she came over here, the reason why of course, like the dream of being a doctor, everybody wanted to do, but the reason why I got a biomathematics degree is because I saw my mom work 3 jobs.
Wait, how rich is your mom now?
Well, I retired her.
Okay, so she worked 3 jobs and barely made ends meet, but she worked really hard, but she's not wealthy. So why do you think that there's such a concept as meritocracy then?
Opportunity, and it's what you put into it. Yes,
You think she didn't put enough?
Hold on, she had a disadvantage. So when she came from Jamaica, she was a teacher. When you come from a third world country with the teaching degree, you have to go to college here again. She went to Felician College, which it's in Jersey. Then she went to Teachers College again. So she did what she was a teacher for damn near 10 years.
So she worked that hard, and yet she still didn't get millions of dollars.
No, hold on. But hear what I'm trying to say. Because again, that experience was her getting here. You know what that instilled in us? After we seen her mom do that, ain't nobody ever work harder than me. You can't name a mom work harder than me.
I know, but your starting point was way more fortunate than your mom because of all of her actions. You're making the point that I'm making as well. I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for my parents who worked hard, my parents who were relatively affluent when I was growing up, that afforded me the best education possible.
your starting point is based on your parents. For example, you know why my mom was in that
and you have no control over that. That's my point. Yeah, that is literally my point. My point is you have no control over your starting point, and that's a huge component. That's why there are plenty of studies conducted on this as well. Your zip code.
I never said it's a fair race. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's not fair, and I want to make it more fair. Is what I'm saying. I'm not talking about the equality of outcome. I'm talking about the equality of equality of opportunity, which is a fundamental American right.
If you don't make it, you have to push the ball forward for someone else. My mom could have never got to where she was coming from. She was battling for censorship half the time she was here, so she could have never really made it.
Yeah, we should fix that. We should fix that. That's a thing that I advocate for, by the way.
No, and I agree as well. But what I'm trying to say is that the story of America, and when we act like, oh no, there is like a bunch of excuses that people can fall on. My bad, my monitor. Okay, bunch of excuses people can fall on. My mom brought the baton to a certain level, and it's the same thing. If your parents is from anything, granted, I feel like you're using survivor's remorse. Like,
no, yeah, you're using survivor's bias. I don't have remorse. I'm happy. I love my life. I recognize my privilege, okay? But I'm not like gonna apologize for it. I'm not like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. No, I work hard every day, and I'm very fortunate. But I recognize how fortunate I am, and I also recognize how unfortunate other people are. And I want to live in a world where everyone at the very least has an equality of opportunity, true equality of opportunity. I'm not talking about equality of outcome. I'm not saying like, oh, you work this hard, I work that hard, everyone should get paid the same. I've never advocated for that whatsoever. I'm simply stating that at its core, there are plenty of people who are over from the starting point. They just have bad RNG, and they have a bad starting point, and they have a bunch of horrible things that happen to them throughout their lives, which they cannot overcome. And I do think that the human condition is awesome, and they could potentially, if given different circumstances, a different set of circumstances, they could improve their living conditions. But there are a lot of rich people that don't want to allow that to happen because they've made it. They're like, you, I got mine. I'm going to kick the ladder down behind myself. Your mom could have been in a way better situation overall if there was a better transitioning program from Jamaica to the United States of America. If she didn't have to struggle, she never should have worked 3 jobs. I think that, and she should have always been able to make a living wage across the board, regardless.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm gonna call you here. Listen. I'm going to ask you a question. You're probably going to deny it, but I know intuitively you believe in nepotism.
Wait, let's hear it.
You absolutely believe in nepotism, correct?
What do you mean, believe in nepotism? No, I think that nepotism is only a problem because of the current system that we exist under. That's the only way that we can actually get a job. Like, after college, I went in to apply. I graduated with a 3.85, right? Double major. You're supposed to be able to get in at least to like get in the door at any of these companies or any of these to get an interview. No, all that was afforded to me was selling insurance. Okay, that's all I had. It was available to me. I went in and I did all these interviews, and it was all about selling life insurance to my friends and family. Okay, I am a beneficiary of nepotism that still also plays a role into the privilege that I have. I went in and I worked for my uncle. He had a 26-person startup called the Young Turks. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen their videos, right? They didn't have anyone working doing biz dev shit at the time. I didn't know anything, but I was a go-getter. I was hungry and I didn't have any money. So I was like, this is the only job I can have. And maybe I can develop like a larger media role eventually. Okay. This is something that I admit all the time, but obviously, I want to make sure that every other person at least doesn't even have to rely on family members so that they can truly unlock their potential.
And this is where, I'm going to quote your arch enemy, which, you know what I mean?
My arch enemy? Who's my arch enemy? I don't have any enemies. There are like irrelevant random people that... Like,
oh, man, Andrew Tate. I'm going to quote him. This world we live in is player versus player. And what I mean by player versus player is like, number one, nepotism exists, right? Which means you're working hard for you and your family tree and your family line, and whatever resources you gain in this lifetime, you will probably pass on those privileges and luxuries to your offspring or somehow to your family who will be in a more privileged position.
I don't think this world is PvP, honestly. I think that that's capitalist dogma is what I call it. We think that we live in a cruel world where everyone is motivated by self-interest, sure, but there's so many collaborative components, whether it be your own family, whether it be your own community, whether it be your close friends, that play a significant role in societal development. And our education from the start has led us to think that it's a zero-sum game when it's never been a zero-sum game. It's always been done through cooperation. There has never been a single person that's ever succeeded without help from others. They might have unfairly or fairly compensated them for that labor, but individuals do not make champions, okay? They rely on the strength of others, and united we achieve such profound accomplishments. No one's building a skyscraper on their own.
Okay, and by the way, I'm arguing a point that honestly, just like, for the benefit of people like me, like we want to believe you, but like, and by the way, we want that to be true, but we just know that's not true. Like in just how we grow up, like we obviously want, every human that gets born this year to have the same opportunity to make it in whatever realm, and it should be off of. Not only should they be entitled to a minimum level of living, but they should be able to achieve whatever they want to achieve based on their work ethic, this and third, within their lifetime. But that's just not true. And I think that's not true. And when it comes to like, put it like this, well, if you believe that, I'm gonna throw a fastball at you, or maybe a curveball. Do you believe in reparations? Because
I do, yeah, 100%.
So you believe, what I mean?
What, you don't believe in reparations?
I'm not saying I necessarily do. I just can't see people giving it. I'm gonna be honest.
You don't believe in reparations?
No, it's not necessarily say I don't believe in it. I say I can't believe. I don't think that the people in power will ever concede to that.
Yeah, but so who cares? Who cares? Yeah, those guys are assholes. I'm talking about you. It's you and me right now. We're having a conversation. Do you think reparations are fair or not?
No, yeah, but I'm not. Also, no. The reason why I'm also not quick to jump to just saying that, because a lot of people use that as the excuse. Like, oh, okay, we should be awarded with certain. So, what I mean? Until it happens.
I don't think it's an award, by the way. I don't think it's a reward. I think it's restitution. It is fair. It is just. It's robbery.
Too crazy. Let's not do like. There's certain people who live and die on, well, until I get what's owed to me, I'm not going to continue and strive forward by doing more work or doing whatever. In reality, you get left behind. You know what I mean? Because number one, like this is pretty much as tangible at this point as the motherfucking, as Bigfoot. Like, has there really been any substantial conversations that it's even going? Like, I mean, it's we've seen certain things enter like, in terms of being a bill to like, give reparations, but it's nothing really ever tangible that came out of this. You know what I mean? It's really kind of all of.
Well, America did give reparations. Do you know that? America actually did give reparations.
Who?
In the aftermath of the abolition of slavery. They gave it to slave owners. They lied to black people, and they said that black people would get reparations. That never happened. But they gave reparations to slave owners. That should tell you about what is just in this society, right?
Okay, so and then we get to specifics. I talked to this person who, salute to him. He's a brilliant guy. His name is Tariq Nasheed. You ever heard of him? Maybe you've talked
Tariq Nasheed. I'm very familiar with his work. Yes.
You probably don't either, right?
I mean, but he's an interesting guy.
He goes hard for the
ADOS movement.
Yeah, the ADOS movement, and he believes in reparations.
I think in the eyes of a white supremacist society, it doesn't matter if you're an immediate descendant of slave or not. I have a lot of African first generation friends that may even come here and assume that like racist white people or racist people in general are going to say, oh, well, you're an African migrant, so you're in a different situation. It's like, nope. In the eyes of a lot of racist people, they just don't discriminate between whether you're a first generation black person or not. You're just black. So I think that white supremacy impacts black people regardless of their their original material conditions and how they got here.
And by the way, like, even harping back to your question about if I believe in reparations. Again, I was born in Jamaica, which is Jamaica's a colony of the UK. We've been like the Queen and others have been, it's on our currencies, on a lot of things, at least odes to her.
That's slated to change. Jamaica's making an initiative to leave the Commonwealth.
No, of course. Like, we've been on that for a little bit. But, however, you know what I mean? It's like, do we feel like we would be more well off if, like, you know what I mean, say Britain was like, yo, here's this check for every one of you guys who are, you know, native and born to the island that could possibly put you in a better situation, and which would be a minuscule part of, like, you know, all of the oppression and all of the like, I'm with that.
You would be immediately better off right off the jump. You would be better off. However, the economic calculation of reparations is a difficult one. I'll admit, but that's the bare minimum. Like giving immediate financial restitution, immediate financial compensation for some of these wrongs is just a starting point. As Malcolm X said, as Malcolm X once famously said, like white supremacy is like having being stabbed in the back with a knife. Okay, some people want to pull out the knife a little bit. Most people are arguing whether you want to pull out the knife, 10%, 20%, but that's not how this works. You have to pull out the knife and start mending the wound, start tending to that wound. And most white people don't even want to talk about the knife's existence to begin with. So there are varying degrees of blindness to the historical impact of slavery, but reparations is just pulling out the knife.
Hey, no. I agree with you, but that calculation is also, put like this. The reason why someone like me, as opposed to like Tariq, right? Like Tariq is pushing, he has a whole movement. He's pushing for what that would look like. What I tell people of color, and I tell people, especially black people, especially like, people who might be immigrants like me, is like, hey, listen, check this out. If you sit here and you have this excuse like, yo, hey, we're waiting for what we're owed, you're going to be left behind. Because
I don't think people wait. I don't think people like, I don't believe that people, because people need to survive, right? I don't think people are being held back because they are waiting for reparations.
No, if you're believing in movements that's turned this into some tangible thing, like if like a lot of stuff with Tariq Nasheed, it's like, yo, hey, once we get here, then it happens. Bro, I just tell people, I'm like, yo, keep doing your thing. Hopefully, people realize, like, which usually it's never happened in society where someone just admits their own wrong or admonishes himself. But even if it's like, it's held by somebody else and they're like, okay, cool, we will do this in reparations. It should be as much as is not only owed and deserved and this and third, just don't wait for it, man. And that's my whole thing. You get what I mean? So
I just don't think anyone's actually just sitting around waiting for reparations. Like I've never met someone that's like, I'm not actually going to work today because my reparations check is going to come in the mail eventually. I think most black people are understandably pessimistic about a white supremacist society to do that, to be like, oh, one day reparations is going to happen.
I think some people also use it as a reason to excuse behavior. And
I know what you're trying to get at, but I don't agree with it, is what I'm going to say. I've heard that a lot from people that are, more Candace Owens types will say stuff like that, or, Republicans say stuff like that.
You know what you're saying, and I'm not painting that broad brush to say everybody, but I do know people who, because they have ignored they're so hell-bent on some of the things that's happened historically, and obviously some of the things that's happened that's going against, people of color and people who are especially black, right? Like myself and them, and whether they were born here or not. Usually I've seen some of them just kind of like, you know what, I'm not saying all, and I want to give it a percentage on it. They've like almost kind of like fell into it a bit. And that's one of the things that, in terms of spreading the message, again, granted, I have overcame a lot of odds, but if we just kind of make it kind of, hey, this is a normal that you should think that you can't do the same, or you shouldn't be, fighting against some of these odds you're against, bro, I just don't think people of color are going to go anywhere. Because honestly, I don't think they're finna give no type of, they're not like it.
I think most people recognize that reparations is probably impossible to achieve. Exactly. I already said that. I mean, I think it's a moral right. I think it's a starting point to correct, at least to start to try and correct some of the wrongs, right?
It's just a conversation that's basically null and void if we're saying that we don't even think it's probably going to happen. You know what I mean?
But it shouldn't be, and I'm not going to stand in the way of others who are making an honest effort to try to make that change, though, because everything I believe in everything I believe in is unrealistic in the short term, but that's not what I'm in the business of. I'm not in the business of short-term gain. I'm in the business of trying to get people to understand why they feel shafted and why their anger is actually righteous, but redirect that anger not to like random immigrants that are trying to make a living or black people or anything like that, and to recognize that it's the system that is designed this way to shaft them. So that's what I do. That's what I believe in. I'm sure you've heard this said before, but a society only prospers when old men plant trees they will never sit in the shade of. And I believe that it's, you got to put building blocks down to ensure that we have a better future for future generations, even if you are not going to see the immediate tangible benefits right now. So that's the way I live my life.